Most small businesses use ready-made tools to handle billing. The underlying process involves several technologies that determine whether a digital invoice is secure, traceable, and tamper-resistant. Welcome to SmartStart. This tutorial explores the technical process behind sending a small business digital invoice. What a digital invoice is: structured data, not just a file. A digital invoice isn't just a document the small business attacks to an email. Digital invoice is a structured data record that exists in a small business database and can be represented in multiple formats. A PDF for humans, and a machine-readable version, JSON or XML, for systems. Digital invoice records: a unique identifier, small business and customer metadata, line item data, payment instructions, invoice creation and due date timestamps, cryptographic checksums for integrity in some small business systems. When a small business sends a digital invoice, the small business system doesn't just move a file, it passes a structured record through multiple encrypted transport layers. System workflow: how digital invoices move through the small business network. Creation stage: the small business system assigns a unique invoice ID to the digital invoice and stores the structured digital invoice data in a small business database. Timestamps and checksum values are generated to establish authenticity. Delivery preparation: small business system creates an email message or portal link that points to the stored digital invoice record. If email-based, the link includes a cryptographically signed token to verify origin. Transport layer encryption: the digital invoice message travels through the network using TLS, transport layer security, the same standard used in HTTPS web traffic. TLS establishes an encrypted channel between small business and customer, protecting digital invoice details in transit. Email authentication checks: outgoing digital invoice message is digitally signed with a DKIM record. Customer's server validates the signature. Cross-checks SPF and DMARC DNS records to verify small business sender's identity. Access session management: when the customer opens the digital invoice payment link, the small business system generates a temporary session ID. The small business system logs data for traceability. This technical pathway ensures the digital invoice delivery is authenticated, encrypted, and auditable. Data structures and encryption standards: digital invoicing systems rely on several data protection layers. At-rest encryption: stored digital invoice data is encrypted on the disk, typically with AES-256, a symmetric encryption standard approved for government and financial use. In-transit encryption: digital invoice data sent between systems uses TLS 1.2 or TLS 1.3, preventing interception by encrypting packets that move across the Internet. Hash verification: some small business systems compute a SHA-256 hash for each small business digital invoice record. An alteration to the digital invoice data would change the hash, allowing the small business system to detect tampering. The cryptographic protections depends on configuration. Authentication systems: who can send and view small business digital invoices. There are multiple authentication layers involved in sending a small business digital invoice. User authentication: the small business sending the digital invoice logs in with a password or, preferably, multi-factor authentication, MFA. Small business system authentication: domains DNS records include authentication instructions, SPF, sender policy framework. DKIM, domain keys identified mail. DMARC, domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. Access authentication: the digital invoice link or portal uses token-based access control. Tokens expire after a defined time period or after one use, preventing reuse or sharing. Tokenization: how digital invoice payment links stay secure. Most small business digital invoices use tokenized payment links. A token is a random alphanumeric code generated by the small business payment system to represent a specific digital invoice session. The customer clicks the link. The token allows access to the payment page without exposing identifiers or customer credentials. Technical properties of secure tokens: random entropy, high randomness, expiration timestamps, invalid after use or after time limit, binding, tied to the digital invoice ID and customer email. Server-side validation, check before granting access. If token is copied and pasted, or used after expiration, the small business payment system deny the request. Payment processing and data separation. When a customer pays a digital invoice, the system redirects the customer to a small business payment gateway. A payment gateway is a separate service that handles sensitive financial data. It uses a segregated architecture, meaning, the small business invoicing platform never sees the card or bank information. The small business payment gateway encrypts payment data with public key cryptography before transmitting it to financial networks. The response from the payment gateway contains only a transaction ID and status code, no private details. This separation prevents most forms of small business digital invoice-related data breach, because sensitive data never resides in the small business invoicing system. Logging and audit trails. Every event related to a small business digital invoice is logged automatically in a small business system database or a separate small business audit log service. Logs record, user ID and role of the person who created or sent the small business digital invoice, timestamps for creation, delivery, view, and payment, IP addresses accessing the digital invoice, payment transaction IDs, and any API calls that modified digital invoice data. Audit logs should be append only, meaning can be read but not altered. Many small business systems store audit logs in separate environments with access restrictions to maintain evidential integrity. API integrations and data flow awareness. Small business invoicing platforms often connect with other small business systems, accounting, CRM, or reporting tools, through APIs. APIs, application programming interfaces, allow automated data exchange but introduce new security considerations. API keys. These are digital credentials that authorize one system to connect to another system. If an API key is leaked, external systems could generate or modify digital invoices without permission. Rate limiting. Prevents abuse by restricting how many requests can be made in a certain time frame. Endpoint security. APIs should use HTTPS and enforce authentication tokens. If small business integrations are not secured, attackers can manipulate digital invoice data, redirect payments, or extract customer lists. System backups and data redundancy. Small business invoicing systems include built-in redundancy to prevent data loss. Primary storage, the live small business database where digital invoices are active. Replica servers, copies of the small business digital invoice database maintained in real time for failover. Cold backups, encrypted snapshots of the small business digital invoices stored periodically in separate geographic locations. Backups are verified using checksum validation, a mathematical signature that confirms small business digital invoice data integrity. This ensures that restored small business digital invoices are identical to the originals. Technical mitigation. Digital invoicing depends on correct configuration. Expired SSL, TLS certificates disables encryption and trigger customers' browser warnings. Weak password policies allow unauthorized access to small business digital invoicing accounts. Open redirect URLs can send customers to fraudulent payment sites. Lack of token expiration. Small business digital invoice links stay active indefinitely. Insufficient input validation may allow malicious data injection into the Small Business Digital Invoice fields. Mitigation relies on routine maintenance, updating encryption certificates, enforcing MFA, validating all user input, and using rate limits to block automated attacks. Data retention, compliance, and export formats. Retention controls define how long Small Business Digital Invoice data stays online and when it's archived. Encryption of archived data. Archived Small Business Digital Invoice files remain encrypted, often using AES 256 or similar. Data export options. Systems support non-proprietary formats like CSV, XML, or JSON. Small Business Digital Invoices can be migrated without altering data. Integrity verification. When exporting, checksum hashes verify exported Small Business Digital Invoice data matches the stored version. To ensure the Small Business Digital Invoice records remain usable, secure, and auditable over time. System monitoring. Intrusion detection systems, IDS, watch for unauthorized logins or abnormal network activity. Anomaly detection flags unusual access patterns, such as invoices viewed from new countries. Automated alerts notify administrators of multiple failed login attempts or repeated link access. Digital invoicing is built on structured data, encrypted communication, and tokenized payment links. Authentication systems, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, and MFA, prevent unauthorized invoice creation and email spoofing. Encryption, both in transit and at rest, ensures privacy and integrity. Logs and audit trails maintain traceability, while redundancy and backups preserve data continuity. Technical exposures occur mainly through misconfiguration, outdated encryption, or insecure API connections. SmartStart understanding these systems doesn't require coding, only awareness of the technologies that protect data flow from Small Business Digital Invoice creation to customer payment confirmation.